For the beginning, we have a panel, and we have a guest moderator. We're being joined by Tyrone Stewart, who's New Digital Age's editorial content manager, and we'll be talking about emerging media channels and how to measure them. So will you please welcome Tyrone?
Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me? Cool. Yeah, so that's actually my old job title. I have since got a promotion, so congratulations to me. Yeah, I am now content strategy lead at New Digital Age and its owner, Blue Strike Group. So I know enough about me. I'm going to introduce my panel. All right, first I'd like to welcome Blair Robertson, who's CTO and EVP of TVSquared by Innovid. Kerr-McCutcheon, Business Development Director at Adswizz, and John Downs, Programmatic Account Director at the Kite Factory. Good morning, guys. How are you all feeling today?
Yeah, good. Apparently, I've been promoted as well. It's official, James, the account director.
It has to be now. It's just written down. All right, so we're going to dive straight in. I'm going to go around to each one of you and ask you which emerging channels excite you the most and why.
Sure. Yeah, I can kick off. I've almost got two emerging channels. I'll go rogue with two rather than one. Firstly, being digital out of home, and specifically, digital out of home is definitely more of a traditional channel, but in the sense that it's emerging, definitely the way that it's programmatically bought. Ben mentioned at the start, one of the partners that we work with, Sage and Archer, excuse me. We're able to basically, buy digital out-of-home inventory in a much more digital, or like through their platform, essentially, rather than going through the traditional means of open outdoor and other sort of traditional buying houses for outdoor media. And the reason I find it quite exciting and what excites me, one of the reasons I got into programmatic in the first place was, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Minority Report. Obviously, the sort of like holographic ads that specific to individual users or people as they're sort of like walking down the street. That really got me interested in the world of programmatic and advertising. So definitely, this is like the world of digital out of home is definitely sort of the closest progression to that point. And additionally, as well, from a digital out of home perspective, it's like Ben touched on it at the start in terms of that physical aspect of an out of home ad. It's a very tangible experience. It's almost on the level of experiential. It's probably the most shareable. So from an owned and shared paid perspective, somebody's going to be taking a photo of an out of home ad. I can't say I've ever taken a picture of an ad on my computer screen and looked to share it with people. So it's from that aspect, it's very exciting. And then additionally, just quickly let these guys speak as well and get their views in. But Amazon, actually, we hosted as a digital team a couple of weeks ago, a debate in terms of, it was a similar sort of question in terms of emerging channel, but what would be the biggest platform in the next 5 years? And my team actually argued Amazon would be one of the biggest. So sorry to ruffle a few feathers in terms of like Quantcast and things like that in the room, but in terms of like their first party data that they have available to them, that's all logged in data. I'm sure many of you have made your Prime purchases today. That's all contributing to the massive wealth of data that they have that's like comparable to Google almost. So they're almost in the prime, pardon the pun, position to actually, contest Google in the next few years in terms of like their programmatic capabilities, CTV capabilities, out of home, things like that. Yeah, it's quite exciting from that perspective.
After that, I better say digital out of home as well. I mean, amazing. I'm here to represent converged TV and connected TV, so I'll choose that. It's, to me, not that emerging, but the measurement is emerging. I think TV has been used for a long time, but measurement for TV historically has been poor. With our organization, we have 1 million households of data for linear TV, like regular old boring linear TV. But then CTV gives you all the things that TV wanted to be able to do but never really could in terms of targeting, frequency capping, ease of access to the market, not needing to have big upfront orders, comparability with different kinds of digital advertising as well. So I think when we talk about converged TV, it's linear, it's web, any long-form video, premium quality video, CTV as well, all in the same environment, all bought together against a goal, and the goal can be a variety of things. I guess we'll get to later on. And for me, it doesn't seem that emerging, but the measurement of it is emerging, and a lot of the technology that we saw being built in the US is coming to Europe finally. So huge opportunity to measure, to test, and to check out, really.
So similar to Blair, I'm going to say the industry that I work in. But I think, I wouldn't be working in it if I didn't find it exciting. And for me, it's the measurement, but it's also the creativity, that data and technology is bringing to the audio space. So we work with Say It Now and, the rise of smart speakers, which obviously includes, Amazon and Alexa. But the way that you're able to now actually communicate and actually have a communicative experience with an audio ad is really exciting. But also, the things that, attribution and being able to bring those targeting elements, but context, contextual targeting and all those things that we're able to do when you think back to 10 years ago and it was literally just buying a slot in a radio ad in the morning. The things that we're now able to do in audio is just really, really exciting, and kind of I love exploring it every day.
Yeah, so there's a lot of excitement, obviously, within these emerging channels, but why should the marketers in the room be encouraging investment in those channels, and how do they go about getting that investment from their CFOs? Blair, you can kick off.
Okay, so I think there's two questions there. How do you encourage CFOs to let you sign up? I mean, it's always with a CFO, in my experience, and I've probably worked with 1,000 brands, it's do you want the revenue now or do you want more revenue later? And depending, that's really the only decision, and your investment decisions go along with that. I think, our job in the room, our job is really to take calculated risks, to do exciting creative. I don't think a CFO is asking you to make the most boring creative possible. They're asking you to take risks, but they should be calculated. And the more calculation you can do, the more risks you can take. And calculation in this context is measuring, understanding, being able to prove that you have a goal, that you're aligning to the goal, you understand the CFO's goal, and that you're not wasting money, because they hate it when you waste money. So you've got to be able to show that you're efficient. You're not over frequency. Over frequency is the easiest way in the world to lose money. Lack of viewability is also the easiest way to lose money. And that's really hard in a world where we've got so many different platforms, not just platforms, but publishers inside platforms. Even getting cross publisher measurement is super difficult and getting harder. So having a strategy that shows that you're not going to waste money, and then gives yourself the leverage to take the risks on creative, because creative and earned value from creative is by far the best way to, make efficiencies if you can get it right.
Hello, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also about, just being very smart in terms of when you're putting across the information. CFOs are very busy, and one of the things that I always look to do is, particularly when I'm talking to investment managers of huge FMCG brands, is like, well, where is the audience? You have to just make it very clear. And I think we're at that sort of watershed moment of 10 years ago where I remember money was still going into desktop, and then it was like, why are we getting, where's the click-throughs? It's like, because nobody's on their computers, everyone's on their phones, it's mobile. And I think it's that bit there where we didn't learn from that, is that if you confuse these people with too much tech and too much, attribution and all kind of what we're talking about today, measurement, but you've got to really remember and tailor your proposition to the CFO of kind of like, actually, look, we know the audience is here, and really speak to them in that kind of financial language that they understand, not the language that us as digital marketers understand.
And John?
Yeah, definitely. Coming at it from, I guess, the programmatic and Amazon side of things, in terms of what's capable in certain demand-side platforms and things, in terms of being able to upload CRM data to basically, target those people specifically. That's like first-party data is going to be king next year, with obviously the loss of cookies and things like that. So that in itself is one of the main arguments, being able to leverage that first-party first-party data as effectively as possible, building lookalikes from that, like Simi touched on. So from that side, yeah, definitely, that's how you or I would approach selling into a CFO. But then also from a digital out-of-home perspective, a lot of our clients already spend amounts of money in terms of like traditional out-of-home media. So it's in terms of an argument for almost buying that programmatically, being able to be a lot more flexible with budgets, a lot more agile with where ads are being delivered and things like that, and also sort of like how granular you can get with like the programmatic digital out-of-home way of buying as well, in terms of the sort of locations, triggers, like event triggers, weather triggers that would be perfect for the Heineken ads today. Just in terms of being able to do that and being a lot more flexible with that budget, that almost like unlocks that incremental amount of budget as well that's beyond that the amounts that are already being spent in sort of out-of-home media.
All right, going off, we do want to get on the measurement point, but going off onto that point, I want to follow up on that. Is it a case of first of all convincing them to shift budgets, or like I said, are you going straight away for that incremental budget?
I think, first of all, obviously it's like from that digital out-of-home perspective, it's definitely a case of shifting of that budget just so we can have that flexibility side of things, like I mentioned. But then also, what else can we do to push testing opportunities that Blair's mentioned in terms of like the creative side of things, how you could be a lot more creative from that side of things, which does unlock that incremental side of things, being like targeting specific locations with specific ads, basically. So I think that's how you'd start off with the sort of the shift that's already being spent, and then look to build on that incremental side of things.
Okay, cool. We're going to get onto the measurement part now. Ella, how would you first of all define measurement in the context of these emerging channels as quickly as possible? Because I know it's quite a broad.
I think it's you've got to look at just to bring it back to basics and not to go on to a big topic about kind of what are you measuring, but what are you measuring? I think that's what it's about. We talk a lot about going back to basics, and that is what cookies coming off the market is doing for us. But you need to look at what is actually shifting that dial. And I think it's interesting when you look at reports that are really looking at when you take cookies, a Google Ad Manager are actually taking cookies off and what's happening. But you look at brands like Adidas and you look at P&G, and they did that and they actually didn't see that much of a change. So I think we've been for a long time, that last click has been attributed for doing a lot of the work that TV, audio, out of home has been doing. And I think it's about now we're just with what we're doing, we're actually working with a huge retailer, a grocery, online grocery, and actually through our attribution pixel being able to say this person listened to the audio ad and then went and actually bought something. And that's quite before with audio it was kind of always it's that branding, it's kind of we just do it, and not actually recognizing, well no, you were measuring that person listening to that audio ad and then they went on this channel or another channel, and because you can measure that last click, you're attributing it to that a different media, when actually it was the audio ad, it was the TV ad. So I think that's what's quite exciting. The measurement is it's always been there, it's always been the one, but just we haven't actually had the technology to say it was us actually that moved that conversion.
And Blair, do you think it's the same in CTV?
Know what your goals are. That's the most important thing. Start from a plan where you're trying to achieve something and you use the appropriate kind of measurement and make sure that it's consistent across your media. In CTV, I was talking earlier about, I'm still not convinced that brand advertising is really a thing. I think because we as marketers come at it from the perspective of the advertising or the media rather than the way somebody's consuming it. I can consume a commercial in a totally different way to somebody else. So understand your goals, understand how you make it comparable if you are trying to do anything cross-platform, because the methodologies are totally different. And don't have unrealistic expectations, I would say. I mean, cross-platform or personal level measurement is impossible. It's always been impossible. There's a sensible approach to making sure you're assigning budgets to different kinds of media, but trying to do it all in the same place with, I think there was a comment earlier about having all the data in the world to build this magical model. They don't exist, and they never existed even when we had cookies, so that's not really going away. So using pragmatic decisions about investment and then optimizing, not publisher by publisher, but at a platform level, which is achievable. And frankly, is the way most marketing organizations are set up. We still have super siloed marketing organizations. If you work in a place where it's completely consumer-centric, then great for you, but really hardly any of those organizations are out there when you're genuinely measuring, managing media from the perspective of each individual customer.
And John, do you agree with that? Because we were discussing this before the panel as well.
Yeah, definitely. And at the risk of sort of repeating what these guys have said and the panel before us as well, in terms of from a digital standpoint, knowing your goals. I think we need to. It's going to become obviously a lot more difficult as cookies deprecate, and we almost need to start putting our trust a lot more heavily into the platforms that we use. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm very much in various different platforms, various different demand-side platforms like Sage and Archer and Amazon and things, and it's almost taking their truth as gospel. We have to be very reliant in terms of what they're telling us, and hopefully the progression of as we progress more into a cookieless state, and we get these independent verification from outside parties in terms of what conversions we're driving and things like that. But then also from another standpoint, and like we've mentioned already, in terms of like a creative side of things and measuring that engagement, sort of to blow our own trumpet from a TKF side of things again. We've started to develop Kite Studio, which is very much looking at the development of versioning of creatives from clients' assets and things like that, to build up a bank of various different creative routes that we can go down, test and learn, see which ones are being engaged with. Obviously, Blair mentioned that it's extremely important in obviously somebody's going to be viewing an ad differently to somebody else, so having different calls to actions on your ads and things like that, testing various different images, copy, things that resonate differently with different users is going to be vital in terms of analysing that engagement. So that's definitely a route that we're going down as well. And once you've sort of analysed things from a content side of things, that starts to influence how you're buying media. And it's almost like once you're obviously buying media, that informs the content and so on and so forth.
All right, to wrap things up in the interest of time, I'm going to give you 30 seconds each to answer this difficult question. At what point is emerging no longer emerging? I was speaking to Blair about this earlier, and he said, we've been doing this so long, how are these channels still emerging? So I'll start with Blair.
It's not emerging when you discover it works for you, and that's going to vary. So what I'd say is, when you're doing test and learn, so make sure you have the metrics in place, and don't treat the emerging channel, let's say CTV, like TV. You know, if you've got a TV buying team and then you expect them to go and buy CTV, make sure they're actually using the benefits of CTV, the targeting capability. And a massive amount of CTV is still being bought with no targeting because the teams are used to doing linear just don't get it. So the journey is something that's got to be taken internally by the team, and they have to understand what's possible. And that sounds really obvious, but my experience is a lot of teams are not used to doing it, dipping their toe in the water. They don't really know how to measure it. And you can grow really, really quickly if you have the right measurement in place. It's just, test and learn.
And Ella?
I think it's kind of two things. Ultimately, it's when you look at that kind of shift from the rise of mobile, and when did mobile stop becoming emerging? It's like when we have the IAB report at the end of the year, and there's a substantial sort of industry spend going. But I think it's also the education piece, and like you say, Blair, like when we get to that stage where we have our teams that are comfortable and understand and feel kind of proficient in these, being able to use these platforms and really get the maximum out of it. And we're every single award show we're seeing great examples of that kind of these channels being used. I think that will be a sign that we've got it.
And finally, John, as quickly as possible.
Sure, I'll try my best. So like Ella mentioned, in terms of like the year of the mobile, and then more recently, it's been sort of like the death of direct of TV basically, and the shift to CTV and things like that. I think the tipping point for me will be when as an agency, we very much obviously and like we've championed today in terms of that test and learn approach, when we're providing plans and campaign plans for our clients, we definitely have we have a 70-20-10 split in terms of 70% being the BAU and 10% being sort of like testing and learning and innovative things. And these emerging channels at the moment are very much falling into that 20 and that 10%. So I think that tipping point for me will, like almost to take them away from being emerging, is what once we transfer them into that 70%, where it's almost this is what we want or have as a BAU. This is a crucial channel for us. It provides that engagement. It provides all the various different ways that we measure it. That these different channels. I think that's when, for us as an agency, that's when these channels will no longer become emerging.
Brilliant. Thank you. So thank you to my panel. If you give them all a wonderful round of applause, please.